entrepreneurship students and applied business development students. We are going to continue into our chapters of Fred Factor by Mark Sanborn. And as you might remember last week, we started part 3, which is all about developing and encouraging Fred-like behavior among those that we work with, or bringing them in. And so we started spelling out the acronym Fred for various things that you could do to find Fred. So the F in Fred was for find, the R was for reward, and today we're going to get into the E and the D of Fred in chapters 10 and 11. So we're going to start with 10, which is E for educate. And the quote comes from Don Harold. "The brighter you are, the more you have to learn. When you consider the education and training employees or others under your direction receive in your organization, what is being taught and how well is it being taught? If people are taught only ordinary subjects and skills, they'll only know how to be ordinary. Every organization in the world today should be teaching employees how to be extraordinary. In general, managers and leaders universally embrace the concepts that I've used throughout this book, or at least they say they do. Curiously, though, I rarely see managers or organizations attempting to teach the principles embodied in the Fred Factor. Part of the Fred Factor philosophy is having fun. That's what makes work interesting and exciting, not only for the people doing the work, but for the customers and the coworkers as well. In the spirit of fun, you should call this chapter Providing a Freducation. Of course, it would ruin the Fred acronym that I'm trying to use in this section. But what I'm really suggesting is consciously teaching people ways to think and perform like a Fred. An unexpected benefit of teaching these things is that it will make you a better manager or leader, not to mention a better person. You'll increase your Fredification and your skill set in the process. Here's how to do it. Number 1, find examples everywhere. What do you notice when you're on vacation? If you're a photographer, you'll probably have a great awareness of photo opportunities. If you're a musician, it's likely that you'll pay closer attention to the music being played or performed at the location. My point? Your interests focus your awareness. As you become increasingly interested in developing the art of the extraordinary in yourself and others, you'll notice more and more examples. Not only will you see little things done in exceptional ways and notice the people who make the extra effort to be extraordinary, but you'll also notice anti-Fred examples. You'll find yourself thinking, there's a great example of what not to do. Record in writing all ideas and examples. If you run across them in your reading, highlight them. Clip out newspaper articles. Put all of the examples in a Fred file, and soon you'll have some of the best training illustrations imaginable because they're not abstract or contrived. Nothing inspires people more than an example directly experienced or indirectly learned from a real life incident. Challenge the people on your team to collect examples as well. Begin or end meetings with the question, who's got a Fred example to share? Make it a friendly contest with a nominal award. Maybe even post a Fred of the Week where others can see it as well. Number 2, dissect and debrief. Generally, a positive change will not endure unless we understand why it worked. Even the best examples can lose impact if we don't take time to consider exactly what happened. Dissecting and debriefing is a way of accomplishing 4 things. 1, identifying the specific good idea behind the example. 2, adapting the idea to your situation. 3, looking for ways to improve it. And 4, identifying opportunities to apply it. The process looks like this. The good idea. How did it make you feel? What makes that example cool? What makes that example of what not to do? And what's the basic idea here? Adapting to the idea in your situation. Would that work for you? How could it work for you? What would have to do differently, or what would you need to do differently to benefit from this example? Then, looking for ways to improve it. What would make this idea even better? What could you do differently? What would make our customers or our clients appreciate this more? And then finally, opportunities for application. When could you use this idea? Where, with whom, and when will you start? Number 3, teach miracle working. My friend and fellow speaker, Don Hudson, has an important insight about miracle actions or responses that individuals and organizations are able to pull off for others. He asks, when do these miracles usually happen? The answer, when there's a crisis. It's true that there's nothing like a crisis to get our attention and make us perform beyond our present capabilities. Am I right, coronavirus? But that's not the critical point. Don's message is more important. Don't wait for a crisis. Perform miracles on a regular basis. Don correctly concludes that most of these miracles are performed by an individual with a big heart and a caring spirit, which interestingly is accurate description of the kind of person who understands the Fred factor. Do you expect miracle working on a regular basis, or do you reserve such extraordinary performance for a crisis? Teach the Fred factor as a form of a daily miracle working. The size of the miracle is less important than its frequency. Number 4, pull, don't push. You can't command someone to be a Fred. You can't require someone to practice the Fred factor. You can try, of course, but it won't work. Command and control short circuits the spirit of the Fred factor, which is about opportunity, not obligation. Here's what you can do. You can invite people to join you. In other words, pull, don't push. Use your enthusiasm and commitment to gain their participation and involvement. The most powerful tool that you have for spreading the Fred factor throughout your organization is your own behavior, the example that your life sets and the effect that it has on others. The best Freducators are themselves Freds. They bring these principles and practices to bear on how they teach, train, and develop others. After all, as John Maxwell says, you teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. It's a great quote. And now on to chapter 11, demonstrate. That's what the D stands for. And here's our quote from Oliver Goldsmith. You can preach a better sermon with your life than with your lips. Do you have a friend or an acquaintance who inspires you by his or her example? I have a friend who lives in a city where my wife and I often visit relatives. He is the epitome of the Southern gentleman, a highly successful businessman with exceptional taste. He owns and pilots his own airplane, and his home and furnishings are impressive. Yet despite the outer tapings of success, he is at most humble and sincere human being. Whenever I am in his town, I make it a point to have lunch with him. Whenever he hears that I am coming, he always asks me, is there anything I can do for you while you're here? Isn't that the essential question of the Freds of the world and what they would ask, either aloud or silently, of the people that they know and serve? Some might ask that question superficially, but I know that from his character and behavior, it's completely serious. If I said I needed a car to get around, I know with certainty that he'd lend me one of his, or he'd find one that I could borrow. That's the kind of person that he is. But my friend does more than offer to extend himself to make my visit more enjoyable. He inspires me to act similarly, to strive to be the kind of person that he is. While he has never been coached or counseled, and he's never coached or counseled me on how to be of greater service or how to be of what is considered more Fred-like, he has done more than anyone else that I have met to instill that desire within me. He inspires me with the example of his life. The magic question. What could you do to set an example and inspire your employees to serve your customers, vendors, and fellow employees better? Here are 4 simple suggestions. Number 1, inspire but don't intimidate. When I share the story of Fred the Postman with audiences, the reaction I like best goes from something like, cool, I could do that too. If Fred came across as superhuman or inherently extraordinary, he wouldn't inspire people. He'd intimidate them. Fred inspires people like you and me because he's an ordinary guy doing an extraordinary job. Your example should be down to earth and doable. If you come across a genetically engineered for exceptional performance person, others who feel that they lack special DNA will opt out of even trying. Number 2, involve. Here's a radical idea for you to consider. Team Fred. There's no rule that says a team can't harness and benefit from the Fred factor. Many years ago, a buddy of mine found out about a family that couldn't afford a good Thanksgiving dinner. So he purchased all the fixings and delivered them to their home the day before the holiday. The next Thanksgiving, he invited me to join him in doing something nice for people. It was a neat thing to do, and I've since invited others to join me in similar activities. That's the power of involvement. It's far more effective than suggesting or asking. What can you do to involve others in purposeful acts of Fredness? Number 3, initiate. Don't wait for the right moment. It will never come. Don't wait until somebody else does it first. Maybe somebody will, but it's unlikely. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Just take an opportunity and make it as perfect as you can. You can set the pace for the extraordinary performance in your organization, but only if you initiate. That means take action boldly and quickly. Be humble in your motives, but not in your example. Don't act like a Fred for the recognition. Do it to create participation. You are the spark that sets others on fire when you initiate. Number 4, improvise. If I were to give you a homework assignment that would best teach the Fred factor, it might be to attend an improv comedy performance. The beauty of improv is that it proves that you can make just about any circumstance or situation funny. As in life, the situation does not determine the outcome. The participants do. Take what life gives you. You might become a positive example not because of your situation, but in spite of it. You might have the most dead-end job on the planet, but you shouldn't let that keep you from reinventing yourself or your job. In the process of improvising, trying stuff to see what works, you'll probably improve your job or relationship or situation. And hey, even if you don't, at least you won't be bored. Forget that foolish saying, those who can do and those who can't teach. Not only is that statement derogatory and insulting to the dedicated professionals in education and training, but with a few exceptions, it just is not so. The reality, those who do best teach best. The man or the woman that can demonstrate a lesson with his or her life most powerfully impacts others. When those who know are able to show, those who learn are able to grow. That's what a good Freducation is all about. So go spread Fred. Now that I trust you are convinced that you want to be a Fred yourself, here are 3 ways that you can help make this world full of Freds. Number 1, recognize the Freds that are already in your life. Reflect back on your life. Who have been the Freds? The relatives, teachers, pastors, rabbis, friends, others that have made the biggest difference in your life. Maybe it was somebody you encountered in your business yesterday. Whoever and whenever, just don't take it lightly. The extraordinary things that people have done and continue to do for you. Number 2, acknowledge Freds for their contribution. Once you realize who the Freds are in your life and who they have been, make time to let them know how much you have appreciated their efforts. Write each of them a letter or a note, send them gifts, write articles or letters to the editor, and make sure your Freds get copies. Nominate them for Fred Awards. You can actually do this online, and you can make sure that they know that they are valued and appreciated. Number 3, pay Freds back. The only thing better than acknowledgement is action. Choose to do something extraordinary and dedicate it to someone who inspired you. The best payback, as the popular book and movie by the name Pay It Forward, is to pay it forward. Fred the Postman has already started a chain reaction, beginning in my life and in the lives of his customers. He has affected hundreds, if not thousands, as I have shared his story. But think of the people who must have had a positive impact on him. The chain reaction began long before Fred started delivering mail on my street. Using the Fred factor will not cure the common cold or bring about world peace, but it will still warm the lives of many and create peace in your corner of the world. Isn't it great knowing that you have the ability to show others how to make the ordinary extraordinary? That's it. That's all for this week. We've got 1 chapter next week and 1 chapter the week after that, and then we're done. All right. Have a great day. Stay safe. Make good choices. Peace out.